Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Mr. Ngom. Bienvenue à tout le monde sur ma chaîne YouTube. Merci de m'avoir fait confiance. Aujourd'hui, nous allons faire un cours en anglais sur comment donner un conseil en anglais. Giving advice in English. So today's lesson is about how to give advice in English. Okay? In English, there are many expressions that people use to give advice. Donc, c'est comme en français, il y a beaucoup d'expressions qu'on peut utiliser pour donner un conseil à quelqu'un. In English, there are many expressions, but today we are going to see the most common ones. Nous allons voir les expressions les plus utilisées en anglais. The first one is the verb to advise. The first one is the verb to advise, le verbe conseiller. The second one is should. The third one is ought to. Number 4, had better. Number 5, if I were you. Number 6, if I were in your position. And number 7, if I were in your shoes. So these 7 expressions are used in English to give advice. Donc voici quelques expressions en anglais qu'on peut utiliser pour donner un conseil à quelqu'un. C'est ce que nous allons voir aujourd'hui. Now, the first one is to advise. Donc la première expression que nous allons voir, c'est le verbe conseiller. To advise. Je te conseille de. Je vous conseille de. So, to advise is our first expressions that we are going to deal with. Now, you have to be careful. There are 2 ways to write advice. You have advice with S and advice with C. The first advice written with S, the S is pronounced Z. Z, advise. The second one here, written with C, is pronounced S, advice. So here you have advise and here you have advice. What is the difference between the two? The difference is that here it is a verb to advise and here it is a noun, a piece of advice. Donc, la différence qu'il y a entre le verbe advise avec S prononcé Z, advise, et le nom conseil, un conseil, advice, avec un C, on prononce S. Cependant, aussi, il y a aussi autre chose à savoir, c'est que en anglais, le mot advice est un nom qu'on appelle un nom dénombrable, qu'on ne compte pas. Alors qu'en français, on peut dire un conseil, 2 conseils, 3 conseils, des conseils. Alors qu'en français, tu ne peux pas dire 2 advices, 3 advices. Donc, un conseil, en anglais, on dit a piece of advice. Et ne mettez pas SA advice because it is an uncountable noun. Uncountable noun. Example, I advise you to go to hospital. Je te conseille d'aller à l'hôpital. I advise with Z. He gave me a piece of advice. Il m'a donné un conseil. Au singulier, a piece of advice. Advice. It's okay? Yes, as examples, I advise my students to work hard. Je conseille à mes élèves de travailler dur. My father advises me to drive carefully. Mon père m'a conseillé de conduire prudemment. I will never advise my children to watch horror movies. Je ne vais jamais conseiller à mes enfants de regarder des films d'horreur. Number 4, I advise you to learn the irregular verbs. Je te conseille d'apprendre les verbes irréguliers. Number 5, I advised you to go home and have a rest. Je t'ai conseillé dans le passé, advised you to go home and have a rest. So here are 5 examples we can use with the verb advise, and don't forget you pronounce advise. As expressions are the modals should and ought to. Donc, should and ought to, les deux interchangeables, vont nous aider aussi à donner un conseil en anglais. Exemple, you should go to hospital. Tu devrais aller à l'hôpital. Donc, vous voyez, en anglais, on peut dire je te conseille. On peut dire aussi tu devrais. Tu devrais. Donc, aller à l'hôpital, c'est aussi un conseil. Tu devrais aller à l'hôpital. Or, you ought to go to hospital are the same. So here, should and ought to are interchangeable and they have the same meaning. You can use them to give advice in English. So, number 3, you should drive carefully. Tu devrais conduire avec prudence. You should. You can say also, you ought to drive carefully. You ought to drive carefully is also another possibility. Number 5, you should stop smoking. Tu devrais arrêter de fumer. You ought to stop smoking. Tu devrais arrêter de fumer. So you see, should and ought to also are expressions that we use to give advice in English, different from the verb to advise. Come on, another expression, had better. En français, tu ferais mieux de, had better. Had better is the third expression in today's lesson. Example, you had better go to hospital. Tu ferais mieux d'aller à l'hôpital. Number 2, you had better drive carefully. Tu ferais mieux de conduire prudemment. Number 3, you had better stop smoking. Tu ferais mieux d'arrêter de fumer. Number 4, next time, you had better come on time. La prochaine fois, tu ferais mieux de venir à l'heure, d'arriver à l'heure. So you see, we have seen to advise, conseiller. We have seen ought to and should, devrait. We have seen also had better, ferait mieux de. And the other one is, if I were you, si j'étais toi, j'arrêterais de fumer. Si j'étais toi, je travaillerais dur. If I were you, if I were in your position also, si j'étais à ta place, si j'étais à ta place. So, if I were you and if I were in your positions also have the same meaning and they are interchangeable. Example, if I were you, I would go to hospital. If I were you, I would go to hospital. Si j'étais toi, j'irais à l'hôpital. If I were in your position, I would go to hospital. Et là aussi, on peut ajouter, if I were in your shoes, la 7e expression, if I were in your shoes, I would go to hospital. So you can have, if I were you, I would go to hospital. If I were in your position, I would go to hospital. If I were in your shoes, I would go to hospital. Another example, if I were you, I would apologize. To apologize, ça veut dire s'excuser, demander pardon. Si j'étais toi, j'allais demander pardon, je demanderai pardon. Number 4, if I were in your position, I would apologize. Number 5, if I were you, I would stop smoking. Si j'étais toi, j'arrêterai de fumer. Number 6, if I were in your position, I would stop smoking. If I were in your position, I would stop smoking. If I were in your shoes, I would stop smoking. So do you see? It's not very difficult. Okay? Yes. And here you have the second conditional. If plus preterite, and here you have the simple conditional. We have already dealt with it in the past. I promise to, yes, if I haven't done it yet, I promise to send some videos on conditionals online very soon. Donc, ici, c'est le conditionnel 2 de ces données de condition. I'm sorry. Recap. On va récapituler un peu ce qu'on vient de voir. I advise you to stop smoking. Je te conseille d'arrêter de fumer. I advise you to stop smoking. Number 2, you should stop smoking. I have skipped to number 3. You had better stop smoking. Number 3, you ought to stop smoking. Number 5, if I were you, I would stop smoking. Number 6, if I were in your position, I would stop smoking. And number 7, if I were in your position, if I were in your shoes, I would stop smoking. So here you have 7 sentences that have the same meaning, nearly the same meaning. Donc vous avez ici 7 phrases qui ont le même sens. Conseiller à quelqu'un, d'arrêter de fumer. On peut le faire de plusieurs manières en anglais, mais voici les manières les plus utilisées en anglais. Sauf ici c'est in your position. Autre chose à savoir ici, c'est you had better is strong advice. Had better, c'est un conseil plus fort que les autres. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire que c'est un conseil teinté d'une menace. Ça veut dire que c'est un conseil de faire quelque chose, mais attention, si tu ne le fais pas, il pourrait y avoir des conséquences négatives. Un médecin qui te dit I advise you to stop smoking, et un médecin qui te dit you had better stop smoking. Donc celui qui a dit you had better est plus sérieux que celui qui a dit I advise you. Donc had better, strong advice. Alright? Let's practice, exercise. Nous allons pratiquer un peu. Nous allons faire un peu d'exercice. Your friend always come to school late. Give him advice. Ton ami vient toujours à l'école en retard. Ton ami, il est là, mais chaque jour, il est en retard. Donne-lui un conseil. De plusieurs manières. En commençant par I advise you, you should, you ought to, you had better, if I were you. So, use number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to give your friends advice. Donc, complétez les phrases suivantes en donnant des conseils à votre ami qui vient toujours en retard. Coming next, donc pour les prochaines vidéos, et c'est promis, abonnez-vous surtout. N'oubliez pas aussi d'appuyer sur le bouton like si vous aimez la vidéo pour m'encourager un peu. Je suis là pour vous et pour tout le monde. Donc, prochaine vidéo, c'est expressing purpose. Expressing purpose, exprimer le but. Stating preference, exprimer votre préférence dans un restaurant, ok, dans une boutique, quelque part. Et l'autre vidéo aussi à venir, c'est expressing contrast, ok. Donc, il y a aussi les vidéos qui sont déjà en ligne. Donc, abonnez-vous. Subscribe for more videos if you want to get them. So, we have already dealt with the comparative of equality, we have dealt with the comparative of inferiority, and we have also dealt with the comparative of superiority. Donc, si ces leçons-là vous ont un peu échappé, allez à la chaîne, abonnez-vous et essayez de les regarder. Et posez les questions dans les commentaires, je vais vous répondre, Inch'Allah. Goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. It was Mr. Ngom for you.